Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Talk Seahawks podcast. I'm your host, Robert Smith, along with my co-host, Adam Stellman. Today, we'll be discussing our Week 10 preview of our game against the Washington Commanders. Adam, let's talk Seahawks.
Let's talk about this thumbnail we got up here. Look at the. I'm gonna push that back up for just 1 second. I'm gonna check out. Sorry, I did it. Then you took it off.
That's okay. I got it. Give me a minute. There you go.
I got it. All right, cool. So look at the Geno Smith and Shane Walden here. What do you think they're looking at?
I think they're looking at the book How to Win with Offensive Football.
See, I was thinking they were looking at the scoreboard of the Ravens game, but because neither one of those guys look happy. I don't know if I like the idea of Shane Waldron squinting that much. Maybe he should get upstairs where he has a better view. But let's talk some Seahawks. Look, we're coming off of what may be, at least point spread wise, the worst defeat of the Pete Carroll era. Coming up and facing what's seeming like a rebuilding Washington Commanders team. Obviously, new ownership, so who knows what direction the team's going to go in. I already did I think this is a get right game. That was supposed to be the Browns. That was not a get right game. That was a good defense, so that was that probably shouldn't have been in my mind anyway for a get right game. But this looks like one, right? This feels like, look, we're going back home. And we're in our comfort zone. Where we got the 12s. I don't want to say hit rock bottom, but man, I can't imagine rock bottom being much lower than losing 37-3. So yeah, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it, guys. Maybe this is our get right game. Certainly, it has the. I actually think this is a really good matchup for the Seahawks. I mean, we've got a team that puts up points. So this is a team that can score. So it's still a challenge for our defense. They can go out and they can still show, can we shut down these high-powered offenses? Because this is a team that kept pace with the Eagles when they played them this year. I think we've had 3 total, which is one more than the Seahawks, games of 30 or more points. And it's also a defense that I think is capable of shutting down the things that this team does well, or at least does often, which is run up the middle and try to take shots on the outside. So this is a good test for our offense as well, to see if we can find a way to get better at the things that we don't do and do the things that we do well. So yeah.
It's always nice to know the things that you do, because then the things that you don't do, you do, I'm sorry.
And that, guys, is going to basically be the level of professionalism you have on today's podcast, and you'll understand what we are talking about when we get into our keys to success for this week. But sorry, I gotta stop smiling. Let's bring it down, because we're actually we've got kind of a somber announcement to open up this podcast, don't we?
This is true. We have some league news. This news hit, I believe, on Friday. And that was ex-NFL corner DJ Hayden unfortunately lost his life in a car accident in Houston earlier this week. So our hearts go out to his loved ones and those who are affected by this accident. There were actually 6 people in this car accident who lost their lives. So our hearts go out to all of them, and we wish them the best as they're dealing with this tragedy in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anytime you lose someone close to you, it's no great. And then in a situation like this, where was a fairly terrible car accident, that can't make it any easier. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I needed to get a little more somber, because this is this sucks. I mean, this is a guy that we both, I think, watched over his years in the league. I mean, he was a first-round pick, guy that came out of college with tons of talent. Was another one of those guys that just kind of didn't quite find the same level of success in the NFL that he found in college. But yeah, another one bites the dust.
Yeah. All right, and then we had some team news. Former Seahawk safety Earl Thomas got into a little incident there. He had his identity stolen And that's something that you don't want to happen in this day and age. By, I believe, his ex-wife and her boyfriend, to the tune of almost $2 million.
Yeah,
And
$1.9 million.
yeah,
Yeah, Earl's had a kind of a tough time since leaving Seattle. I'm not going to say that maybe you shouldn't have left Earl, because obviously that was a mutual parting of the ways. But I mean, look, we love Earl.
well,
Number 29, always going to be big in our hearts. I mean, obviously a key cog in the Legion of Boom era, a key reason why we went to back-to-back Super Bowls. He played that second one, I think a broken arm the entire time, didn't he? Or there was
it was
some
something,
issue with
yeah.
his, yeah. But yeah, sorry, Earl. Um, Divorces are messy. I speak from experience, and luckily, I never had my identity stolen. So I'm sorry about that. But at least you know who did it. I mean, I guess there's some people who never get to find out who stole their identity. So
Yeah, we're not going to turn this into politics, but I have some views on identity theft, and they're not for the faint of heart. Anyway, so let's move on. Let's talk some Seahawks. The Seahawks had some other news and things worth discussing, but they all happened in the transactions this week. So we're just going to go through and we'll talk about them when I
the
discuss
list.
the transaction. So to start out the week, we got some news, and that was Seahawks activated defensive tackle Austin Feolu from the physically unable to perform list. He had that 21-day kind of practice window to be activated. And so they activated him, and then they released him pretty much the next day, like as soon as the activation
Yeah,
cleared.
as soon as that transaction hit, they made another
Uh,
one.
but then they signed him to the practice squad. So it was a big day for him. He got to be like 53-man roster on the street. Practice squad? Yes. That's how I imagine he was in the mirror.
I'm assuming that he kind of knew how this was going to go down before the actual any of the actual transactions took place. But certainly, it's fun to imagine what it must have been like, that crazy roller coaster of emotions that he must have been experiencing.
Yes. I'm sure John Schneider brought him in and sat him down and said, "This is what's going to happen." But I like my way better because it makes me chuckle. Anyway, we also designated wide receiver Derek Young to return from injured reserve early in the week, which activated his 21-day window to practice and get up to fitness level and be able to be activated to the team. But then the team was like, "Yo, man, you're here. You're good to go." And end of the week, they actually reinstated him to the 53. So he's good to go. He may very well play in this game.
Yeah.
There was a bit of news. And this news was shocking to some people. Seattle Seahawks sign starting NFL quarterback. And we're like, what? What's going on? All those people out there ripping on Geno about his poor play the past couple weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean,
People are calling for his job. I'm like, personally, and this might make a few of you mad, feel free to tell us in the comments if you're one of these people.
for those of you looking to tweet at him on that platform that was renamed,
It's
that's
still
his
Twitter,
handle
by the
right
way.
there.
I'm
It's
not
always been
going
Twitter.
to I'm not going to propagate Elon Musk's love of all things X. He seems to like a lot of X's in his life. Probably, in his browser history as well. So
We've got to get better writers. These jokes are just
these
falling
jokes are
flat.
horrible. I know. I'm gonna go fire the whole room. This guy. All right. So the Seahawks went out. They signed Brett Rippon to the practice squad.
Hometown star Brett Rippon.
Yeah, from Spokane. Son of Mark Rippon, and yeah, I mean, I like Brett Rippon. He started 2 games for the Rams this year.
Yep.
Honestly, I think this signing is more, let's get intel on the game against the Rams.
Yeah, I think that's the
So that's
That's
all
the
it
thing to
is.
take away from this. Certainly, I like you said, where you were teasing before, the article and the headlines all over the place where Seahawks sign starting quarterback, and of course everyone's like, "What?" And then you click on it and it's Brett Rippon. Who
Yeah.
so technically true, yes, he is a starting quarterback or was. Um, but yeah, not the not the news that I think a lot of people were expecting or even anticipating or fearing in some cases. Uh, Geno Smith is not benched. Geno Smith is still the starter on this team. Yes, there are a lot of calls to see what else we have. We do have a guy that we are paying a pretty decent amount of money to just sit on the bench and hold the clipboard. Um, and look, I truly hope that Drew Lock gets some playing time this week. I truly do. Um, but not because Gino gets benched. I don't think there's a quarterback controversy. Certainly, none of the coaches or anyone in the Seahawks facility has even hinted at that. All those kind of questions have been shot down. So, yeah, this obviously is not big news in the way that we were we were saying it was or hyping it up to be. But I do think obviously this is you bring somebody in who knows you're an upcoming opponent from a team that you know pretty well. Yeah, I don't think there's anything more to read into this.
No, and in fact, I'm willing to say Geno Smith is going to need to throw 20 interceptions before they bench him.
Not in one game. Uh,
No, but it's going to take a lot in order for him
yeah,
to be benched, not just a bunch of fans overreacting. And that's all it was. He had a couple bad games. It was an overreaction.
yeah. Look, it's not just Geno Smith isn't the only player out there. This is a team sport. There are 11 men on offense, and the 3 points were not just Geno's fault. That was a team effort putting up those
Yeah.
three
A
points.
full offensive team effort to include the offensive coaching staff.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to sign Brett Rippon, they released one of my favorite undrafted free agents that we had on the practice squad, and that is nose tackle Matthew Gotel. He's a guy who I kind of saw pre-draft. I knew he was going to go undrafted, but I thought he was an interesting prospect. And he's been on and off the Seahawks preseason roster and practice squad for the past 2 years. I'm sure we'll probably see him again. I just think Austin Fiolu is that same type of player, and so
And
it
more
made him more
experienced at this
expensive
point.
and more experienced. Yeah. So good luck to him. Hopefully he lands somewhere, if not back with the Seahawks in a couple weeks when they shuffle the roster some more. We also reinstated running back Kenny McIntosh from injured reserve. And to make that roster spot, they released corner Caillou Blue Kelly, who we picked up off of waivers at cutdown day. Yeah, I am really excited to see Kenny McIntosh. Actually, Kenny McIntosh and Derek Young
Yeah.
to see what they can do for this offense. Kenny McIntosh is intriguing. We haven't seen him yet, right? He got injured in, I believe it was the team scrimmage at the beginning of preseason, so it wasn't even open
It might have
to
even.
those
Well, I
of
think
us
it might have
outside the
even been
stadium.
rookie minicamp. It might have even been rookie minicamp. It was really early on.
Yeah,
But yeah, yeah. I mean, what's not to get excited about? I mean, this is a guy who I think only ended up falling as far as he did in the draft because of the how incredibly deep of a position running back was in the draft this year. I think there were 20 plus running backs taken in the draft, which is quite a few. Um, that's like 10% of the players drafted were running backs. So the fact that he fell to Seahawks is one amazing and a lucky break for us to be able to land a guy with that kind of talent. Look, go back and watch his college game. This is not your traditional college pro style system runner, which is what they were running at that school. And he kind of changed what they did on offense. He made them kind of go away from the power run sets that they usually run, and the power run sets they usually run. Wow, these writers are just awful guys. Sorry. So um, he's just a very unique player. I mean, this guy can run between the tackles if you need him to, but he is definitely more of a threat in the passing game. Um, I mean, if you were looking for a guy that can bring in the elements that we lost with Travis Homer, immediately on this offense. I mean, Kenny McIntosh is your guy.
Oh, for sure. And what he brings in the pass game is something we haven't seen with the Seahawks in a long time. I mean, we've seen Kenneth Walker come out and have some of these great receptions that he's had these past couple of weeks, these one-handed catches. Kenny McIntosh is a wide receiver that plays running back, and more than some of these other guys out there, because he can do both. And one of the reasons why he fell was that he kind of ran a slow 40. And, it happens. But
Jake Bobo, 4'9".
exactly, right? We can make that work. Listen, Kenny McIntosh had 0 drops his entire college career, and he was not a running back that they solely relied on to pound the rock. It's not like he had 0 drops because he had 0
Catches.
targets.
Yeah.
No, they used him extensively out of the backfield. He was a very reliable receiver. He is a good third down back. He showed at the Senior Bowl that he can come out and block some of the top pass rushing prospects that were coming out this year. So he's somebody I'm really excited to see. I don't know how much he'll be used in this game because, once again, you got to work him in.
Just one screen. Just one screen pass. That's all I want to see. One screen pass.
I don't know.
And that has to be the only one in the game, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say I have PTSD because I don't want the Seahawks to ever throw a screen pass. All right. We also promoted offensive tackle Jason Peters to the active 53-man roster from the practice squad. We knew this was happening soon. They have promoted or elevated him for his 3 games already. So we knew they either needed to sign him to the 53 or not use him because he didn't have any elevations left. So this happened. Let's see if he gets more rotation in there. That right side of the offensive line basically was a turnstile against the Ravens, and he has experience. Hopefully he can come in and boost Stone Forsyth's confidence as we're waiting for Abe Lucas to get back, or when he is in there in the rotation, that he's able to bring that veteran experience and reliability to hold up there on the right side of the line.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is a reoccurring theme with the Seahawks, especially under Pete Carroll, right? I mean, just a couple of years ago, bringing back Bruce Irvin. And I think that was specifically to kind of see what we could get out of Alton Robinson and Darrell Taylor, and that worked pretty darn well. One of those guys became the top sack artist on the team, or at least tied for the top number of sacks on the team. The other guy, not with the Seahawks anymore, but I think that was part of the reason we brought in Bruce Irvin, was to see what he could help get these guys to unlock. They both had talent, and Darrell Taylor just ended up being the one that found the key. So I think that's probably more or less what Jason Peters was brought in for. Obviously, Bruce Irvin played, I think, 40% of the snaps the first year he was back with us. So it's not to say that he's only here to be that mentor role. He can, I mean, the guy can still play. He wouldn't be signed to the 53-man roster if he couldn't. And I think even though, everybody did not look good against the Ravens along that offensive line, I don't think you can just point out Jason Peters and say that he was overmatched more than anybody else. He still has the talent to play in this game. He's got more knowledge than our entire offensive line combined, actually, at this point. We don't have any real veterans on there. I think Phil Haynes, is the only guy that could be considered a veteran, and he's still a pretty young player. So, I think this is a good signing by the Seahawks. They've got, obviously Charles Cross in right now, Abe Lucas when he comes back. There's just, is there anybody in this league that has more knowledge than Jason Peters at a single position? Probably not many.
All right, looking at this injury report, the Seahawks have a few guys listed. I'm a little worried because we have a player listed as out, and that's offensive guard Anthony Bradford due to that knee injury.
Yeah.
I really liked what I was seeing out of Anthony Bradford. If you look at the past few games, skipping the Ravens game. But
I wish I could have, Rob.
Yeah, all of us wish we could have, including the Seahawks organization. I'm not sold on Phil Haynes in that right guard spot. I know they gave him a really decent money for a career backup at the guard position in the offseason. They paid him a little over $4 million for this year to Phil Haynes in order to come in and be their right guard of the future. And he's had some nagging injuries this season, primarily a calf injury that's been flaring up. So that's given Anthony Bradford time, and he's been able to get in there. And I think he's looked better overall in his reps than Phil Haynes has. And I really want Anthony Bradford to get healthy because I think that's a battle to watch for as the Seahawks are pushing towards the playoffs and trying to make this end of the season push.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it all season, right? How we've kind of been shuffling players in this offensive line due to injuries. And when Bradford, it took a while for Anthony Bradford to break into this lineup. We were pretty deep at that interior position, but when he finally did, yeah, it was a pleasant surprise. We saw exactly what the Seahawks drafted this guy for. He is a mauler in the ground game. The guy's a beast. He's also acquitted himself really, really well in the pass blocking schemes here. Yeah, I think we found another gem along that offensive line. So I'd really like to see him get healthy. The only thing I will say is that this is a position where we are still pretty deep along that interior offensive line. We've already seen what it looks like when we have to move Evan Brown into a guard spot. Yes, it's been the other side of the offensive line, Rob, but I think Evan Brown, I think, has enough experience, and he's enough vet that I think he can play wherever we need to have him play, and I think he's proven that so far this year. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of the backup plan. It's not good when your backup plan is to move a starting player to another position. That's some high school stuff, right? Oh, I got to get my best 5 out there. So number 3 went down. Hey, number 6, you're going in, and number 3, you got to slide over. That's very much crossing your fingers and hoping that doesn't bite you. But I like Oluwatimi, so if something happens and he needs to get in there, obviously, hopefully nobody gets injured. But like I said, I'm not sold on Phil Haynes. All right, we have 4 players listed as questionable. 2 running backs, that's DJ Dallas and Kenny McIntosh, which is kind of expected. McIntosh coming off of that injury. And then we have starting linebacker Jordan Brooks and tight end Colby Parkinson. Jordan Brooks being questionable. We hope he can play. We hope he's good to go. If there was any game where you could rest a player, it would be this one.
I mean, you're not wrong, but man, that's tough to say out loud, especially the way the season's gone. But yeah, look, I mean, if Devin Bush has to finally earn his paycheck, then so be it this week. Sorry, Devin. I know you haven't been getting a lot of opportunities, but I haven't seen it, and obviously the Seahawks haven't either. Otherwise, you would be getting those opportunities. So yeah, but sure. I mean, if we have to see more Devin Bush, or I think that it's more likely we're going to see more of another player, maybe Nick Ballore. Again, not a bad thing. Love you, Nick.
Or Radigan. I mean, Radigan
or John
actually has
Radigan.
more defensive snaps than Devin Bush.
Yeah, well, so yeah. But yeah, this is it's not great because Jordan Brooks has been a mainstay and an absolute beast in the middle for us this year. I'll tell you what, the combination of him and Bobby Wagner has to be the best inside linebacker tandem this team has ever had.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. In as far as the inside 3-4 linebackers, right? Best tandem that this team has had.
I was kind of hoping you wouldn't point that out, Rob, but thanks.
Yep, anytime. All right, Adam, how is the injury report looking for these Washington Commanders?
So the injury report is looking not very informational. So right now, they're the most of their injury report just says unspecified when it comes to game status. That's Jonathan Allen, the defensive end, Kendall Fuller, starting cornerback, Jahan Dotson, their starting wide receiver, and Emmanuel Forbes, another starting cornerback. So right now, those guys are all listed as unspecified. We can tell you, at least from the website, that 3 out of those 4 were non-injury related. for Josh Allen and Kendall Fuller. It just started out as rest days, but they didn't participate Wednesday, and we have no new information Thursday or Friday. Jahan Dotson actually was out for personal reasons, so he's been away from the team. I believe it's already been said that he is going to suit up for this game. And then Emmanuel Forbes has been dealing with an Achilles injury, but he was a full participant all week. So my guess is that most of those guys listed are going to play. The only questionable on the roster right now is Curtis Samuel, their third wide receiver. He's been dealing with a toe issue, so he's been limited all week, but it does look like he'll be active for the game. So this is a pretty healthy ish Commanders team.
Yeah, like you said, a few questionables, but we're expecting a lot of those guys to play.
Yeah, if not all.
Well, if they're coming in healthy, then that means this team needs to do something to win this game. And so Adam and I went and put together our 5 keys for success, because obviously the Seahawks coaching staff listens to our preview show every single week.
Clearly.
So number 1, this team has to get back to basics. We saw how the offense has performed and a little bit of the defense. I mean, we had quite a few missteps on defense as well in this last game. But this offense, since the bye week, has not looked good.
No.
We squeaked out some wins, primarily against the bottom of the league Cardinals and the Browns, where if not for a Jamal Adams header, then
great play.
We probably would not have had an opportunity to win that game.
No.
So the offense needs to get back to basics. Listen, Kenneth Walker had 26 carries in the game against Arizona. Since the game against Arizona, he's had a grand total of 17. That's 2 games. He's had 17 carries. You will not win if your number 1 running back gets 17 carries in 2 games. I don't care who the rest of your team is made up of. You have to have a balanced offense. Pete Carroll got the closest I have ever seen him this week to actually putting one of his coaches on blast. He kept saying things like, "Oh, you can't run plays out of that formation against a defense like that," or "You can't run plays that don't have checkdowns." He said little things that made us think that maybe Shane Waldron was in the doghouse, and maybe that's just me projecting my hopes and dreams onto the Seahawks organization. But let's see back to basics. Let's see a balanced offense. Let's see help along the offensive line. You have to get back to what works, and we have a blueprint of what works very clearly this year. And we have a blueprint of what does not work, because it's basically anything Shane Waldron naturally wants to do, because I don't know if he knows this.
Whoa, coming out hot, Rob.
But he coaches for a team in Seattle. He is not coaching for a clone of the LA Rams with Sean McVay as their head coach, because that's how he calls plays, as if he were trying to impress Sean McVay.
That may be the closest we've had to Rob getting to a point where he's calling someone out. No, I'm just kidding. But that was some pretty harsh words for our our offensive coordinator. But look, I can't disagree with it, right? So get back to basics has been the refrain for this last week's worth of practice. The reason this is in quotes is because that's literally a quote that came from DK Metcalf. This team needs to get back to basics. And yeah, like you said, Rob, if your starting tailback is averaging less than 10 carries a game, you're not going to win the game. You're just not, unless he carried the ball 10 times and scored 10 touchdowns. So
I'll take that.
Which we would take. But look, this has been a pretty anemic offense, I think, almost all season. I mean, just take out the Detroit game and the Panthers game, and this offense has been just not good. And it's been because we don't seem to make in-game adjustments. very well. We seem to get away from a balanced offense very quickly when we fall behind. Um, and though that's just been a recipe for disaster. So let's just get back to basics. I mean, like let's see some power run games. Let's see some old school inline tight end blocking on passing downs. I mean, whatever it takes to get this offense moving again, we need to do. And I think the quickest way to do that, to take our guys out of their heads and just get back to playing football, is to get back to basics.
100%. So for our recap show, we're going to kind of give this a pass fail. And this one's sort of broad, so that's more of our take on it. I'm going to say, if we do not meet my balanced criteria, which is 55 pass, 45 run, or more balanced, closer to the 50-50, that's the metric I'll be looking at. And just of note, the only note I had down for this point was Kenneth Walker's carries. All the rest of that stuff just sort of came out because I got mad, because it's basic stuff. So yeah, let's see some checkdowns. Let's see short passing options to help Geno Smith kind of get into a rhythm. Let's see third down conversions, because we're one of the worst teams in the NFL at converting third downs.
Which means we need to have positive plays on first and second down to get there, guys.
Yeah, and a good way to do that is to run the ball. So once again, it's circular, right? All of these things add up to the same thing. Let's just get back to basics. Our second key to success, once again, we are just throwing out the secret sauce here. You got to score some points.
Yeah, I do believe the great John Madden was the one who said the team that wins this game is the one that's going to put the most points up. So let's put some points up so we can be the team that wins this game. I think, I mean, not to just point out the obvious, but the reason that we lost the Ravens game is because we didn't put any points on the board. And I know, yeah, that's a duh, but at the same time, what I'm trying to say is we couldn't move the ball at all. Like, we didn't get in the red zone. We didn't get near enough to attempt a field goal. So put some points on the board. Take as long as we need you to do it, but just put some points on the board.
And once again, we sort of make jokes because it's basic stuff, right? These aren't good keys, right? Keys are testable metrics, what you're going to do, but we're doing that on purpose. These first two keys are, come on, guys, you need to get a reset and you need to get focused where you need to be. So put points on the board. The Washington Commanders are 31st in the NFL in points against. So they are giving up an average of 27.2 points this year. I mean, this team is ripe for scoring on, right? So you need to get the offense out there. We need to get in a rhythm. We need to play efficiently so they can go down and take advantage of a defense who is 31st in points against. And the majority of those games, they had Montez Sweat and Chase Young on their defensive line. And both of those guys now have different locations in which they reside. So we need to take advantage of this team.
Yeah, look, I mean, do the one thing that you have to do to really have a back and forth in a game, and that's make your opponent have to adjust. We didn't do that with the Ravens in any way, shape, or form. The Ravens just played their game, and we were just there to be blocking dummies. And I'll say more about that later. But we didn't make them have to do any adjustments. They didn't have to change their game plan. They didn't have to do any of the hard stuff, the technical stuff in football to win this game. We just let them win because we never forced them to do anything that they didn't want to do. So let's just do that with the Washington Commanders here, because this offense can score points. And if we just let them play their game, they're eventually going to score points. So let's make them make adjustments.
What is Pete Carroll famous for saying? We do what we do, and you have to stop us. So do what you do and make the other team adjust. We have been the team that's been forced to adjust since the bye week, and that's not a winning formula for the success that this coaching staff currently has in mid-game adjustments, primarily on the offense. Our third key to success is ball security. Once again, broad title, but let's throw some numbers out there. Geno Smith has accounted for 8 turnovers in the last 3 games. And you're not going to win with that. So we need to keep the efficiency up. We cannot turn the ball over. We can't give teams extra possessions. And that's it. So I'm going to say right here that my metric for whether or not they pass this ball security key for me is at 2.5 turnovers. If they can keep it under like 2 or below, then I'm going to say they pass, even though we'd really like that to be 1 or less.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like it to be 0, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's not just about not making mistakes. That's going to happen. Mistakes are going to happen. It's not making the obvious mistakes. I mean, not to get back on Geno again, but yeah, I mean that's accounting for nearly 3 turnovers a game, and a lot of those were, I mean, like rookie mistake stuff. You can't see a receiver, the routes change, but you still throw the ball in a direction anyway, hoping that he's going to be there and not the defensive back that's been now taken over the spot where he was the last time he saw him. Yeah, we can't keep giving the ball away like this, because one, obviously it's a killer on offense. If you give the ball away, you're no longer on offense. And two, I know. Well, hey, back to basics. Your defense, these guys that have shown, I mean, like, you want to talk about improvement. Look at this defense last year and this year. A lot of different pieces and a lot better. These guys have really, I mean, just made so much growth, and even into this year, and we are hampering it by making them play 3/4 of a game.
Yeah, 100%. And for those of you who didn't know, Adam is the new incarnation of John Madden. If your offense hands the ball to the other team, well, then your offense isn't on the field. Yes, 100%.
Are you also spoiling that I'm going to be making a turducken for Thanksgiving? No, anyway.
Please do. We'll post pictures.
All
right. So our fourth key to success is how well can we get after the quarterback?
How well? Huh. That's funny.
Adam with his puns.
I couldn't help it. This is another back to basics thing, right? How do you affect an offense? Get after the quarterback. Again, back to just making adjustments, right? Make them have to make adjustments in game. I mean, you're the statistics guy, but when we were winning, we were doing just that. We were putting pressure on the quarterback. The games where we don't affect the quarterback, we don't win. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah. My note for this is in weeks 3 and 4, we had 37 pressures each of those weeks, which is insanely high.
Yeah.
That is
not
greatly overachieving. But in this last game that we played against Baltimore, the team had a grand total of 9 pressures. I mean, that's a vast difference between 37.
That's less than a third.
Yeah, 37 at our high point so far in the season to arguably our lowest point in this season, because I think this game against Baltimore was worse than the second half collapse against the LA Rams in week 1. So you have to get after the quarterback. Let's see those pressure numbers come up. I'm going to put my over under here at 20 pressures. I want to see that defense. And that's the full pressure stat line. That's hurries, sacks, right? Total pressures. So I'm going to put that at 20. I want to see this team approach 20 and hopefully exceed it.
Robbie's so good at maintaining like this calm, very professional demeanor on this thing, and I want the listeners to understand and the people watching the pod to understand just how passionate Robbie has gotten during the course of this this podcast. Because at the beginning of this podcast, when we were discussing these points before going live, Robbie's metric was going to be just 15 pressures. He's now upped it by 5. So he's not pulling any punches here today.
No, you don't want to set mediocre standards because then you get mediocre results. So let's increase the standards a little bit. 54%. Let's start achieving.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. Jerry DePoto had to put that in there. What a horrible press conference.
Okay. Don't even get me started on the Mariners.
There's a reason why we don't do a Mariners podcast, guys.
No. All right. Our 5th key to success. Wrap up. This is a message to the defense. This needs to be a defensive bounce back game. Direct. Listen, defense. Wrap up. Oh, as a defensive coach, it drives me nuts when I see professional football players who don't know how to tackle. And we saw that many times, honestly, with the Seahawks defense over the course of this season. I believe at one point we still might be. I didn't check before we went live here, but I'm pretty sure we have the most missed tackles in the NFL.
We did going into the Ravens game. So
and then we still do because they missed 23 tackles in the Ravens game. And it's guys just not doing fundamentals. The NFL has basically legislated big hits out of defense. So you're not going to get that big blow up kind of replay. You're not seeing big hit video compilations anymore. It's out of the game. So just wrap up nice form tackling, good technique, get the guy to the ground. Tariq Woolen is probably the biggest offender on this team in that he thinks that his elbow is just as good as his hands, because he'll throw an elbow and a forearm out there to try to tackle somebody, I'm going to say at least 5 times a game, thinking that will be a successful tackle. You got to do better. This is professional football. This is not a bunch of little 8-year-olds running around the field. In fact, the tackling is such a big thing for me. The last time I was coaching youth football was 8th graders. And my worst, I'm not going to say, so the players with the least natural ability had tackling form and fundamentals that they could tackle our best running back in the open field. And that's why we went undefeated that year. But tackling is so important. It's critical. It is a fundamental of the game. And this team has just dropped the ball. The Seahawks used to be the gold standard. And we've seen that slip over the past few years. And it's just guys getting lazy. Just loafing on the field. Being soft when they need to come up and make contact. And I was not actually going to harp on it. I was just going to touch on missed tackles. I was going to say this needs to be a bounce back game. Let's limit them to fewer points.
That's what that's what the final thoughts are for, man. So go ahead. Fire away. I told you guys Robbie is very good at just being very, very even toned all the time. It's just who he is. But I'm telling you, this man is about to jump out of his chair. He's really getting upset and getting into this. This is great. Rob, I'm enjoying this. I'm not gonna lie. Look, again, we've done some pretty basic keys to success before. But we've never done this. Okay, we've never just said you have to do the things that are called football on the field and and you might have some success because that's literally what we're doing here. I mean, we've talked about utilization of tight ends. We've talked about directional running, but we have never just done this. And I think it's because after that Ravens game, that's the most upset I've been watching a Seahawks game since Super Bowl 49. And we've had some bad games since Super Bowl 49. We've had bad games. We've had bad seasons since Super Bowl 49. But this is the most upset I have been after a Seahawks loss since Super Bowl 49. And it's because what we're watching on the field is poor product. Something that we have not had to experience, even in the worst moments of the Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson era. We didn't have to watch bad football being played on the field. There was always passion. There was always energy. We weren't losing games because we didn't play. But it really looks like we are losing some of these games because we give up. And that's not something this fan base is used to, and that's not something this fan base deserves. And it's not something that we should have to continue to watch for the second half of the season.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. In fact, honestly, I'm tempted to just wrap up the episode right there. But we'll do our position matchups and predictions real quick.
Okay.
Just to knock those out. Adam, how do you think these quarterbacks match up?
I feel really bad doing this, but to continue with, don't worry, I'll have some positives to say later. I promise, guys. Both of us can't be me for the podcast. So, but right now, I put it at a wash, a tie, if you will, a push, because Sam Howell right now is playing better than Geno Smith is playing right now. And this is a what have you done for me lately league. I hate to be that kind of a fan, but I'm gonna be for this episode. I'm gonna be that guy. Right now, Geno Smith is not a better quarterback than Sam Howell.
Wow, I didn't see that one coming. So we don't, for the most part, tell each other what we're going to pick in this section. I gave it to Seattle. I gave it to Geno Smith. I believe Geno Smith is the starting quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks beyond this season, unlike apparently 90% of Twitter.
It's more than 90.
But yeah. Listen, Geno Smith has had some bad games. And you're right. If you look at track record over the past few games, it seems like Howell has the leg up here. I think Geno Smith is going to play better at home. I think he took this last game very personally. And
good.
I'm looking for this to be a bounce back. So I'm giving this to Geno Smith because I think he's going to step up in this game. How about the running back rooms?
Just because I know you're going to hate me for this. I'm going to change this because I think I would have given you some good talking points if I kept it. This was going to be a push for me again. And this has nothing to do with the talent, even though I do think there are some talented running backs in Washington, both state and the city capital. But yeah, look, Antonio Gibson is a really good all-round back. He's had some turnover issues, which is why he's not a three-down back for them right now. And Brian Robinson has really come on since coming back from being shot in the leg. So I was going to make this a push, but I'm sorry, but I can't, because I know that Kenneth Walker is the best running back, bar none, when it comes to these two teams. It's not close. And I think Zach Charbonnet could be the second best, and it won't be particularly close from what I've seen when he's been able to get his touches this season. So I'm going to give this to the Seahawks. I was going to say it was a push, but I'm going to give this to the Seahawks.
All right. I gave it to the Seahawks because of the exact thing you just said. I think they are
stealing Rob's thunder.
They are improperly utilizing Charbonnet and his abilities. So once the offense gets back to basics and realizes that this man runs over people. Maybe we should use him accordingly. Perhaps things will get better. But now we're getting Kenny McIntosh back. DJ Dallas has looked good for us when he had opportunities. He is really contributing in the punt
Special
return game.
teams. Gosh.
In fact, I kind of hate that D. Eskridge is stealing his opportunities on kick return because he led the NFL in kick return yardage and average kick return yardage. And then D. Eskridge took his spot for some unknown reason. Apparently, the Seattle Seahawks don't employ statisticians, but I don't know. What can I say? But it will be a little tighter for me in this matchup because Dallas and McIntosh are both questionable. We'll see if both those guys are able to go. But I gave it to the Seahawks. It's closer than it would have been had those guys been healthy. And but that is no disrespect to the Commanders running backs. I like all the running backs that they have over there. I think they're good players. I think we're going to see a fair amount of run game action in this game. I think the Commanders are going to lean on their guys a little bit, and hopefully the Seahawks do the same. How about the wide receiver room?
This one's the toughest one for me. And at the beginning of this, it was a push for me because they've got guys that are really good over there. Terry McLaurin is one of the top 5 wide receivers to come out of a very deep wide receiver class in 2019. I mean, Curtis Samuel, we said he's probably playing for this game. He's on their injury report. It's unspecified. He's probably playing for this game. He's a do-it-all kind of guy. He's what we thought we were getting when we drafted D. Eskridge and what we hope we might be getting out of Derek Young. Jahan Dotson was a first-round pick. Second-round pick? He was an early round pick.
Yeah.
He was a very early round pick, and the man's talented. When he's had his chances, he's been really good when he could stay healthy. Tyler Lockett's being Tyler Lockett this year. DK, hopefully rounding into form once again a little late, but okay. We've got a very deep room. I'm actually going to give this to the Seahawks, and it was really, really hard for me because it was a push earlier. But for all those reasons I said, I'm actually going to give it to us just because of who we've got at 3, 4, 5, and I think 6 now.
Yeah, we have a very deep receiving core. Rarely do you see the Seahawks have 6 wide receivers. And honestly, I don't know how Derek Young is going to play into this offense. There are things he can do better than guys who are expected to be slotted above him on the depth chart, primarily D. Eskridge. So let's see some of that. Derek Young was kind of a motion gadget running back in college who then converted to wide receiver towards the end of his college tenure. He has those skills. He can take those fly sweeps, right? He can make things happen on a screen. He has that little bit of wiggle, but the thing he has over Eskridge is he has the size to punish you when you try to tackle him when he has a full head of steam. So I'd like to see them work Derek Young into the offense a little bit more. I would expect him to be inactive this game. I mean, he just got activated off injured reserve. I know he's been out there practicing. Let's see what happens. Obviously, we don't know the full extent of these injuries other than the broad spectrum game designation. But I'm giving this to the Seahawks. I really like the receivers that Washington has, but I've got to give this to the Seahawks. All right, Adam. Colby Parkinson is questionable. Does that change how you see this tight end matchup?
No, it's not 2017. So Logan Thomas isn't Logan Thomas. Um, I'm kidding. He's actually playing pretty well this year. Uh, but he's playing healthy this year, which is definitely not a typical year. So, but no, this is. I mean, I think Noah Fant is probably a better tight end at this point in his career uh, than Logan Thomas is. I know Will Disley is, and Coley Parkinson might be more talented anyway. So if he gets a chance to play, but either way, yeah, no, this isn't close.
Yeah, I gave it to the Seahawks as well. I think Parkinson will play once again, unless they choose to rest him because this is the game that you probably can do that during. Even though any given Sunday in the NFL, any team can win. But I'm giving this to the Seahawks. How about the offensive line?
This one might surprise you because it surprised me. This is a push for me right now, and it's tough for me to say that because I think that our offensive line has played outstandingly this year. The guys that have had to step in due to injuries or step up due to injuries, um, the the fact that they've been able to accomplish what they have accomplished so far this year with so many pieces continually moving. I mean, have we had more than 2 games in a row with the same starting five? No. So they've been playing really, really well this year.
No, we did. That was weeks 2 and 3 when we had Stone Forsythe at left tackle and Jake Curran at right tackle.
And they both played great
Yes.
when called upon. But Sam Howell, despite being as inexperienced as he is in the bottom half of the league when it comes to being sacked. And they have had, I believe, the same starting 5 offensive linemen every game this season. And the last couple of games, they've kept him really, really clean. So right now, this is a push for me.
Yeah. I see where you're going with that. Normally, I like to, when in doubt, give the benefit to the Seahawks. In this one, after the Seahawks forced me to rewatch that Ravens game multiple times because we had to do podcasts about it. Right. I just can't give this matchup to the Seahawks because they put me through that kind of pain. So this is something I'll be working through with my therapist for a while. But I'm giving this matchup to Washington. All right. So the defensive line matchup.
This one I might be stealing your thunder again. I apologize because this was a push for me, because of the Ravens game, just because of the Ravens game. If the Ravens game had never happened, in some alternate reality where the NFL just called it off that day, just like no, this game's not happening. This would have been a pretty easy win for the Seahawks D line. They've been playing amazing. We just added the ultra talented Leonard Williams. But because I watched them be just inept in that, and they were the best part of a bad defense. I will say that. And during the Ravens game, the defensive line was the best part of that terrible defense. And but they were bad. They were still bad. And this line, even though they did get rid of their 2 best pass rushers, they have depth behind them. I mean, these guys have drafted really, really well when it comes to building this defensive line. And they got rid of 2 highly drafted guys. Well, they've got 3 guys behind them right now that were all drafted in those middle rounds, and I think some of them just need a shot. So this was a push for me. I think it still is a push for me, and I didn't even talk about the defensive tackles.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this to the Seahawks. Listen, we're running long this episode.
Yeah, we are.
But I'm basically going to be a defensive homer throughout all the positions. I am giving defensive line to the Seahawks. How about linebackers?
I'm giving that one to the Seahawks. Again, I think Jordan Brooks is going to play. Even if he doesn't, Bobby Wagner is going to play. And I will take Bobby Wagner in the middle of the defense every time.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, right? I already said what I'm going to do, but I gave linebackers to the Seahawks. If Jordan Brooks has to sit, I'm fine with essentially Jamal Adams being that other linebacker, because that's more than likely what will happen on the majority of the snaps. And then having Radigan, Bush, Ballore, whoever they want to bring in on short yardage, we need a bigger body type of situations, that's fine. It does scare me a little bit when I see Nick Ballore out there on defense. So hopefully, with that said, that doesn't bite us in the butt at all. All right, how about the defensive backs?
Yeah, look, there's some very talented guys on the Washington defense. Not taking anything away. They've drafted very well on defense these last several years. I think Jatavius Martin, once he gets a shot, is going to be really, really good in this league. But I still have to be a homer kind of here and give it to the Seahawks. I mean, there's just too much talent in this secondary. I know what these guys can actually do when they're on their game. We've seen it. All of them, except for Devin Witherspoon, still haven't had their A game this year. I think Devin Witherspoon's had his best game that he's going to have this year. I don't think he's going to be bad. I think he's still going to be good for the rest of the season. He's just not going to have that amazing game that he's already had that. No one else on this defensive back has yet. Somebody's going to have it this week.
Yeah, I think Trey Brown may have hit that category, but
All right.
he has the potential to exceed that. So there you go. You're leaving the door open for Trey Brown to come in and have a just stellar, game-defining kind of game.
Two sacks and 2 interceptions.
There you go. I have the defensive backs going to Seattle. As far as true talent goes, they're heads and tails above what Washington's bringing to the party. You just have to play like it on the field. All right, Adam. I know you like to go in and look at these teams and make a prediction. What's your prediction for this game?
Real quick, I'm just going to say special teams will also go to the Seahawks, because as long as Michael Dixon is kicking here, that's where that goes. Everybody knew that was happening. Anyway, I'm trying to be really positive for this game. I think it's probably going to be closer than I want it to be, but I think we're going to win this game. I feel good, and that's saying something coming off how nauseous I felt last week. So I'm saying the Seahawks are going to pull this out. They're going to find a way to get it done. I don't know if that's because of a turnover on defense, probably will be, or if the offense finally finds a way to click. But yeah, I say we come out on top. I got the Seahawks 27 over Washington at 20.
All right. So interesting. You mentioned those scores. So I came into this. I think this will be a bounce back game. I believe that the Seahawks will play up to their potential on defense. I have them holding Washington to 13 points. And I believe the Seahawks offense will kind of get back in the groove. So I'm going to go with the Commanders' average, and the Seahawks will score 27 points. So 27-13, Seahawks. That's my prediction.
All right.
Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Yeah, look, I think we just need to say again that this was one that this ran really long, but I think that it's been a really good podcast, because I think you guys got to see how passionate Robbie can really get, and where this can kind of steamroll out when we have such a bad game. But we still are remaining positive. Both of us are going over with the Seahawks winning this game at home. This is a bounce back game for us. It can be, it should be. I think it will be. Other than that, I've got nothing to add.
I want to have positive takes. I want to be the optimist, right? Sometimes I end up being a little bit more of a realist, and I go to stats in order to back up some of that stuff. But I want the Seahawks to go into this game and score 45, 50 points. That's what I want. I want the offense to kind of get their act together. I want Shane Waldron to get his act together and call plays that are best suited for the team that he coaches for. I think this offense has the potential. They have great running backs. They have stellar wide receivers. Yes, our offensive line and our blocking up front definitely needs work, but we happen to have some pretty good blocking tight ends who can help those guys out and are pretty good receiving the ball as well. So let's get it together, offense. Score at least 27 points, but please hang a 50 burger on this Washington Commanders team. That's what I want to see. I will rejoice.
Yeah, I won't
sing
complain
a little
either.
bit of Seahawks gospel if you hang 50 points on the Washington Commanders.
So tune in next week when Robbie sings.
Or watch a few episodes ago when Adam's Conspiracy Corner debuted and he had a singing intro to that one. Anyway,
I do.
Thank you for watching or listening to the Let's Talk Seahawks podcast, the podcast for fans like you. Hopefully our predictions are correct and we come out of this week at home with a win against the Washington Commanders. Please like and subscribe wherever you listen. Please leave us a review or a comment. We love hearing from our fans. Thank you. And as always, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.